and welcome back to Sew What with Nancy. I'm excited to get this going again tonight as we have had a few sessions already. As you remember, my first session was regarding the basics of sewing, and then we made coasters. Now I want to know how many of you made the coasters or how many plan to. If you would, be sure to comment. Send a picture or show a picture of what you've made so far or what you plan to do. So if you like, share, comment, get the word out, and most of all, go ahead and choose the notifications. If you click that bell, you'll be notified when my next YouTube video comes out. So let's get started with the 2-pocket purse tonight. So let's get started with our 2-pocket purse. And we're only going to have to sew 4 seams. It's going to be very simple. And the fabric I chose tonight to use for our 2-pocket purse, we have our lining fabric, and I chose kind of a black piece of fabric. Both of these pieces are 6.5 inches by 20 inches. And I also chose a pre-quilted fabric. This is actually going to be the outside of the purse, and this will be the inside of the purse. Now what I did with the pre-quilted fabric is I went to Joann's in Shreveport to pick out the fabric that I wanted to use. And I bought quite a few samples and yards of fabric to use. I like using pre-quilted fabric. To go along with the fabric, you want to choose your thread and the color thread you want to use. Tonight I chose to use a green with, it's called a variegated thread. It has different tones. It'll go between white all the way to different shades of green as we sew. So let's get started. Let's do our first seam. So let's take our 2 pieces of fabric, and what we need to do first is put them right sides together. I already told you there's my lining. That's the right side, and that's going to be the right side as far as the will end up being the outside of the bag or the purse. And put them together. Line up your 2 pieces of fabric, and I'm going to sew my first seam. It'll go quick. I'm going to sew right across the top here. I'm using a 1/4 inch foot. That always helps me when I'm doing my sewing. So let's go, I'm going to go forward a little bit. Now I'm going to lock it by pressing the back button and go back. There we go. Now I'll go forward again. I think I can speed it up a little bit. Glad it has a speed control. There we go. And I lock that as well. Go back and then forward. Now, ready to pick up that pressure foot. Use my little thread cutter on the side there. And now that I did my right sides together, I'm going to turn it. There's my right side. And there's my lining. I see a piece of thread there, but I'll cut that in just a minute. So you kind of fold so your seam is real even at the top. And I'm going to do my next seam. This will be my second seam here. Here we go. This time I'm not going to lock it because I don't want it, I want it to look pretty at the top here. There we go. Now we have 2 seams, and now I'll show you how you cut one end to make it curved and then how to fold it. Okay, so here we have our 2 pieces sewn together, and I have this thread here. I want to cut that off. Get that off that piece. There we go. And one of the first things I want to do is to make a pretty flap. So I'll fold this together, and I want to have it curved for a flap. So it just seems like it's easier for me to have it even on each side is if I fold it, and that way I can cut it the same time. Let me make sure all this is flat and fold it like this. There we go. I'm going to take my big scissors here, and I'm going to make a curve. There. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? So now we're ready to fold it up so that we can prepare for our next sewing. We want our lining to be inside. So now that we have our curve set here, I want to fold this up like this. You kind of judge how big you want it to be. And then you fold again. Let's see how that is. May have to trim that up a little bit, but even so, I think that makes a good size. So what I did again is I folded in half basically, almost, but I want to make room for the flap. I fold up again, and there we go. Now that we have this folded up and we have it rounded, we want to clip this so we can hold it. I like using these mini clips. I love using clips now instead of pins whenever I can. So I'm actually going to put clips on both sides to hold it together. Let's put a couple here. Now that we have this all folded up and ready, this is going to help us when we get ready to sew. But before we sew, now this is the magic of this 2-pocket purse. You wonder, what in the world is she doing? But we're going to take the back part of that fabric. We're going to unclip it and leave that loose with the back part. Do both sides that way. Take that back part off, get it loose. I always reclip it to keep things together. Don't want that part in there though, the flap. Okay, now that we've got it, I guess I'm trying to do something left-handed there. Don't want to lose how this is. But what we're doing is we take that back and we fold up in front of it. Now you think, how in the world is this going to work? Patience. It's going to look fine. Let's clip this together so we all have it together. So what we did, we had it folded, clipped, then we took the back piece and folded in front of it, and now we're ready to sew. Okay, now we're ready to start to sew the 2 seams. And what I want to do, now that we've got that back piece folded up here, like we did, we want to sew around this side and then this side, just both sides, not all the way around it, not the bottom, or all the way across the top. We gotta have a place for turning. We'll start right here at the corner here, about right here. Put my presser foot down, and I will lock the stitch this time. Remember what it means to lock a stitch? You go backwards, and then you go forward again. Now probably, I will say, it'd probably be better if I had a walking foot on here, but I don't, so I'm hoping that I can still get through this fabric because it's pretty thick, and I think I'm doing all right. Now remember how you lock it? We'll lock the bottom one here, go back, and then forward. So we have our 3rd seam done. Use my thread cutter there, and let's do the other side. I think I'll start at the bottom here. Here we go. Take that clip out, and we'll get started. We want to go back. There we go. We're doing good. That up there on there. There we go. Got a piece. Wants to pull right through. There we go. Take that clip out. Here we go. There, get started there. And go back. Lock it. And then lift up that presser foot. Cut my threads. And now we're ready to go over there and turn this and sew it across where we can close it. And I'll show you the next step. So now that we have our next 2 seams done, the 4th seam has been completed, let's trim this up a little bit. In fact, before we turn it, I always like to cut my corners. It makes a smoother corner, a pointed corner, and I can trim some of this up a little bit. I think we're good on this side. And there we go. Now let's turn this. Let's see how it's going to go. Sometimes it's difficult to turn these when they get to be so little like this. I think we're doing all right. And we may even have to use our little gadget to poke our corners in. We got to make sure that, there we go. Get this all in there. I'm trying to figure out which way I want it to go. I about got it. You do these turns. Ah, there we go. That's what we want. Put my fingers down in there. Aha. Now we're poking it in there. Perfect. Let's see. I can use this little tool here to we can poke that out really good. Good. And we have another pocket here. Poke it out. One last place to get this pushed out good. Now, flattened out a little bit. Look at there. And this is going to be our flap. So, let's take a look. We got two pockets. There's a pocket. And there's a pocket. You can put your some cards in there. You can separate out your money. But this is going to be your two-pocket purse. Let me show you how you close it. So now what we need to do is actually sew that hole that we made to turn this. And so what I do is I fold these in and clip it. And then we're going to sew around this top part only. We don't sew the bottom part. We just sew around the top of our flap is what we're doing right now. So let's get that lined up in there. It's going to be a close stitch. And probably what I'm going to use for this time is a different type of a lock stitch, is where that looks like a dot inside of a circle, and it will lock the stitch, but I won't be going back and forth. There we go. So we're going to go around the top. I'm going to put that needle down, and that's by pressing those two arrows there. Here we go. This is simply just to close the top and do a seam out the top here. Just a few more stitches here. I'm not able to go too far up there, but we'll try. And then we'll lock it. And put my needle up, press my pressure foot up, and cut my threads. So now we have that sewn together and we're ready to make probably put some snaps there to hold it closed. Now to finish up our two-pocket purse, as you see we have our two pockets. I thought it'd be nice if we had a little snap to put on our flap to put it down. And our snaps are plastic snaps, and you can buy this set at Hobby Lobby. And you have different colors. I chose to use white. And you have your pieces that you can put together to make your snaps. And then you have your snap pliers to be able to squeeze the two pieces together all the way through, and it'll hold in place. That's where you simply have it like a thumbtack, and then you have part of your snap, and you have another thumbtack, and you have your other part of your snap. It takes 4 pieces to make for your bottom and top of your snap. Then when you snap it together, now we're all set with our two-pocket purse. Now that we have finished our two-pocket purse, thank you so much for watching. And let's talk about our next session about my YouTube videos with Sew Up with Nancy. Let's make a pillowcase, but let's make it using the hot dog method. You're thinking, hot dog method? Yes, it's a fun way to turn and make your pillowcase. It's super simple. But what you're going to need for our next project, have it ready next time, you're going to need a third of a yard of fabric, and that's for the cuff. That's why I probably said that. And then you need a 3-inch strip of fabric for the trim. And then you need 3/4 of a yard for the body of the fabric. Let me show you what I picked out for our next project. To make something for one of my young girls, probably. A little kind of a teenage thing. And so I have my 3-inch piece of fabric that's already folded in half there. 3-inch piece of fabric for the trim. And then I have my 1/3 of a yard for the cuff. And then I have 3/4 of a yard for the body of the pillowcase. So have that ready next time. So remember, if you like what you're seeing, and I hope you do, be sure to like, share, and most of all subscribe so that you know that you will be notified for our next Sew What with Nancy.